You guys are going to be off the charts excited.
What a product manager does is conducting a little bit of an orchestra, and it's your role to make sure that everyone is in sync.
Chemical engineers work in water, food manufacturing, they can make beer. The list is endless.
I would say social entrepreneurship is a lens, and it's a lens that we take to making the world a better place through business.
Pick a passion area, become an expert in that area, and build your journalism career with deep expertise in a niche topic.
Maybe you're not burnt out because you're doing too much. Maybe you feel burnt out because you're doing too little of the things that make you come alive.
I am caffeinated and I'm so ready to go.
So it's one of those days today. I don't know, Wacky Wednesday. We were live. Katrina and I were jamming. She was putting out amazing shit. I just cannot tell you. And it kills me that you weren't able to see this. And then I screwed up the open again. But life goes on, you know, it's only a LinkedIn Live, right? Everybody's cool. Katrina, I'm going to bring you back in. And, this is take two.
Hey, this is 3 years media. If we need to take 3, that's what we do.
You know what? There you go. And you were telling me the other day that 3 is your lucky number. So maybe we should screw this up and come back on third time. But I just want to let our viewers know, considering you didn't hear me the last time, it was really good, actually. I thought I did an okay job. Katrina self-identifies as they, them. They are the CEO, founder, just basically the kick-ass head of 3 Ears Media. They weren't on when I did this little description later, so I'm sorry to be silly, but I am. And Katrina founded 3 Ears 3 years ago, magic number 3 again. And we are going to be digging into what is Katrina's bread and butter. This is like, you live and breathe this stuff every single day. And that is how to translate what a hiring manager needs, wants, what recruiters have been tasked with bringing into their firm, to their company, to their organization.
Exactly.
And that is a job posting. And to make sure that it is inclusive, doesn't discriminate. And Katrina, if you would be so kind, just super, super quick, if you could let our viewers know, because now we know we actually have viewers. And by the way, I was checking my stream and I'm like, why am I not seeing that we're live? So I probably could have stopped us a lot earlier, but at any rate, we're doing what we're doing. But what is the difference between a job description and a job posting?
Yeah, so a description is really necessary if your company has government contracts or there are legal requirements, because it is a legal document. It's something that lives in an HR folder. It has a lot of bullets, a lot of very technical language. And then what we should be posting is a job posting, which is a marketing version of that content. And it answers 2 very, very important questions. The first one, do I want to do the work? You should be able to read this, even if you have no context, even if you've never heard of the company before. I should be able to read a posting beginning to end and know, can I do it? Do I want to do it? My bar, my minimum expectation of a great posting is that it's actually something that I could walk up to a stranger on the street and they could answer those 2 questions, because if they can't, we haven't gotten there yet. We have not gotten to the point of clarity that's important for this role.
Now, in our take 1, I gave a shout out to Kamara Toffler, because that is where I first discovered Katrina. I know I was living under a rock, but I first heard Katrina dropping one gem after another. And when I heard them say what a job description was, this was the other piece. You did say that it's a legal document, but it's really for the hiring manager, for the company to have in case they need to fire you, right?
Yep. Honestly, yeah. That's the only time anyone will have to go back to this document is if you are not meeting expectations. They have to clearly outline which expectations you're not meeting. And that's why they write things like great communication skills, collaborative team player, because it's really broad and it gives them legal protection.
Okay. So what does a kick-ass job posting look like?
Yes. So I tell people that and this is how I coach recruiters, it's creating a structure that tells your team what to convey, what is important to tell people, not what to say. So I think it's a red flag if I open up a company site and I see 12 postings that all read exactly the same except for 6 bullets in the middle. It's not like that. So the first thing that a great job posting does is it tells you the impact of your work, right? We do not hire people for fun. They're not just some randoms, right? We hire people for a purpose so our company can get somewhere. We need to get that impact and it needs to be obvious because every person has an impact on your company's success. The second thing it does is it highlights everyday activities. What do you have to be willing to do every single day? For a purpose so our company can get. The last piece is making sure that you have absolute minimum qualifications. So this is often where the bias starts to creep in, right? We think we need all of this other stuff. But I recently read a study from HBS that actually said that fewer than 30% of hiring managers feel confident about the requirements they include.
Why is that?
Because they were never taught to write job postings in the first place. They were never taught to have great intake, to truly ask great questions, and actually be able to decipher what is must-have versus what is nice to have. They've been following the same techniques that we've been using for the last 100 years.
Okay.
Go ahead. The very last thing, and this is the part that I find most interesting, especially if you don't have a ton of work experience, are what I call skill stories. So great companies are not writing 3 years of experience. They're writing, you have built this. You've managed a team of this size, right? It's explicit. It's a yes or no. There's no blurred lines. That's a great job posting.
Yes. And you were also saying in a couple of moments before I realized we weren't streaming that the way you were talking about a job title, and I was starting to dig into a job posting, and I read the title, and I want to say it was like no, that's the wrong one.
Executive influencer.
Correct. And what did you say, Katrina?
As much as the job posting is made up, so is the job title. And often we cut ourselves out of jobs because we think the title doesn't identify with us, right? So if you're a little later in your career, you've run into that moment where you've hit the glass ceiling or whatever ceiling, and you're like, I'm a director when your title says manager, or I'm a VP level when your title says director. These are just examples. But the thing is, it's something that we look at as like value. It's our life, you know? And these companies, it's so unfortunate because we put so much value into it. We invest so much energy when these companies are just making it up. They're picking names out of a hat. I mean, if you remember 2009, 2010, the ninjas, the gurus, like
yes,
to the age of 7, most of us know that we're not going to be ninjas when we grow up. Yet I could still type ninja and find a bunch of jobs for you. And that's where we got into this tactic. So for every person watching, this is one of the most important things you could learn from me. And it's about how to find job titles that you should be searching. So right now, I want you to open a second window. Do not close this one. Open a second window. I want you to type your job title, or at least the job title that you've been seeing, and the word resume. Then you're going to click on the image search results. At your first scan, I just want you to see if these are jobs that you like. Do you want to do the work that's listed under that job title? That's your number one. If yes, I just gave you 1,000,000 resume templates. You're welcome. Katrina Kibben is where you can send those flowers. So now you have a ton of resumes. Resume, check, done. This is the second thing I need you to look for. I need you to look for alternative titles. Remember I said it's completely made up? You should be searching more than one job title. I actually suggest that you have 5 that you are regularly searching, that you have alerts set up for, because you should be in a big pool. You want to have a big pool of opportunities if you're qualified. And the fact that you didn't search those keywords should not be the limiting thing that stops you from getting the job that you want.
Oh my gosh, that is such gold. I absolutely love it. Love it. So let's dig into the black hole of job postings. And I went on Indeed before this, and I pulled up 2 different job descriptions that I felt would be of interest potentially to our viewers. And I want to give a shout out to the University of Washington at Seattle, to the grad students, maybe even to some undergrads. Put it in the chat where you are tuning in from. But I know that they got an announcement about this live, and I told them that you were going to be there. So of course they're going to show up. Yeah. So let's go into one of these job descriptions. And this was the account executive influencer marketing, which we have now heard from Katrina is a made-up title. The full job description, and Katrina, tell me what you think is the best way to read a job posting. Okay, I just used the word job description. Sorry.
You're good.
Job posting. All right. Because it says full job description here, and then it lists the responsibilities for the role. I'm going to scroll down here and get to, they have basic qualifications and then preferred qualifications.
Yep, of course.
So what is what? And I do want to point out something else which really annoyed me. In the basic qualifications, they say at least 1 year of relevant experience in communications, marketing, and or related fields, including influencer relations, advertising, public relations, media, or publishing. But then when they get into the actual ideal candidate, they start saying things like 1 to 3 years preferred.
Exactly. So the full transparency, right? They don't know the difference between the preferred and the basic. So I want to give you the tools to be confident as you approach these job postings. So if you are ever a job seeker again in your life, these tools will apply, right? Unless I've just taken over the world and I've rewritten every job posting, which you might get tired before then. So
yes,
this is what I want you to look at. I want you to take that job posting, the content of it, and put it into a free word cloud generator. I think the one that I use is free word clouds, but literally if you Google free word cloud generator, you'll get one, promise. A word cloud is basically the output of a quick data analysis that counts words. The reason that I find this word counting analysis so interesting is because often when we do not have a great understanding of a role, or we don't have a great understanding of what we're writing, the job posting, we will repeat words. It's a psychological thing, right? Let's say you and I were having a conversation about a topic that I wasn't very familiar with, but you were. I would probably repeat some of the things you said back to me to show you that I was listening, right? That's like a very young reporter technique. The same applies to the job posting. By putting that job posting into the word cloud generator, it's going to tell you what words are most important, because this is how a recruiter looks at your resume. They have those words in mind. They have used those words to search for you in the first place. That's how they got you. Now they're scanning to find those words in the context that makes sense in their brain. Your best bet is to take phrases, at least phrases, if not the whole bullet, from the job posting and put it directly in there, because you cannot assume that recruiters have bridged the gap between what you mean and what they said. Just say what they said. That's the biggest thing that you can get out of that job posting. And bonus, right? When you use that word cloud generator, the words that are used the most, it's safe to assume those are the most important. And now you know what's most important to this job, even if they didn't do a great job with the posting.
So amazing. Now, I just want to maybe drill down a little bit here, Katrina, and just get a sense of how I should be. I'm looking, and I'm sorry I can't share my screen, everybody, but I'm looking at this posting, and under preferred qualifications, it says the ideal candidate already has favorite influencers across social media platforms and bring a personal digital footprint that reflects this understanding and an interest in pursuing a career in digital media. Would you take that whole bullet and put it into the word cloud?
I would take the entire posting.
The entire posting.
Yes.
So you would not be looking for things like strong research writing and editing skills. You would let the word cloud generator work its magic.
Yes. But I really love that you brought up that first bullet, because that is something that you could tailor your resume with. So if I hear them saying, and I have a marketing background, of course, and so if I hear them saying you need a digital imprint, that means your social media links have to be on your resume. That's a way to fast forward this experience, because if I tell you digital is very, very important to me and there's not one link on your resume, I'll tell you right now, I will trash it. Unless you have the most incredible background, you just created another step for a recruiter who is already buried, right? Recruiters have notoriously bad behavior, and I am not excusing it. However, I work with a lot of them. You cannot fathom the pile of work on their desk. The weight we put on these people is, I'm not proud of that, right? Think about filling 40 jobs at once. Think about filling 60 jobs at once. Now let's multiply that times every single step. How many applicants, how many interviews, how many final interviews? Oh, and usually the process is much longer. So multiply that times 4. Then we're making offers. Then we're negotiating. Then we're doing onboarding. Then we're doing right? Then we're doing 60-day check-ins, 90-day check-ins. I mean, it is layered work. And so really you need to make it easier on them. And frankly, they should be making it easier on you too. And that's where I sit in that weird middle spot of trying to make it easier on both of you.
So when we use the term keywords, what is your definition?
Yeah, it's the word a recruiter would search and your resume would pop up. I want you to think about this like you are Googling something. That's your best test. If they Google X, would they find me? That's your first match. And that's truly, to me, that's when you're going, all right, I'm on the right path. I know that my resume has what it needs to, because it's very clear that this job is my next job.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, diving back into the preferred questions, and they have a bullet that says fundamental understanding of the role social influencers and digital play in the marketing campaign.
I hate that. Sorry, I'm not very
Me too.
Shy. The reason I hate it is because it's not universal, right? I could say that to 3 different people and be like, what does that mean? And they would all tell me something different. I bet you money I could even say that to 3 different people on that team, and they would say something different. And so for the people reading, I want you to read job postings with a grain of salt, right? If you meet about 50% of the qualifications listed, I want you to apply anyway. Because we got to go back to the universal meaning. If you find 50% universal things you know you can do, go ahead and apply. Because we know there's a lack of confidence on the other side of this that no recruiter is going to admit. There's vulnerability on both sides. Yes.
Okay, see, that surprises me. Why is there that level of vulnerability?
I think a few things. Recruiting does not have a traditional education pipeline. All right, let me explain what I mean by that. If you're an engineer, you go to school for engineering, you get your license and certification, then you become an engineer, right? If you're a journalist, you go to school for communications or PR, then you go and work at a newspaper for your internship, or you work at an agency, and then there's a education pathway for many different fields. In recruiting, it is very rare to meet anyone who has a similar path because there is no recruiting degree. There is no recruiting education. Literally, there's not even a list of this is what you must know to be a recruiter. So every single recruiter has a completely different background. Most of them come from things that you would never expect a recruiter to come from. I met like an aerospace engineer who became a recruiter. I've met doctors who became recruiters. I was a writer, right? Like, what? And with that said, they do not learn a baseline of information, the baseline of how to code this, how to do this, how to write this. There's none of that unless their company is invested in them, and less than 3% of companies invest in training. So this is not, we can't expect a lot because we haven't invested a lot. And that comes with a lack of confidence.
Okay. That makes sense. And I'm thinking back, Katrina, to when I was a hiring manager, and I was a hiring manager in 4 different companies that I work for. And some of them were more bureaucratic than others. But I can tell you without fail that we saw a job posting as a Christmas wish list.
Yes, exactly.
We put everything we wanted to see under the tree in that posting. And is that another reason why you're saying to our viewers, when you read that posting, if you hit 50% of it, apply?
Yes. Do you know how many times I've had to tell someone, this is not a rich kid's wish list. This is a job. It's supposed to be a story someone can imagine living. That's what I want to see. A story you can imagine living. And I think that's such a good point, because these hiring managers aren't educated on how to write a job posting either, right? And so recently I completed a 100-year research study of job postings to start to understand the bias. And this is one of the ways that bias has trickled into our postings. And it has psychological consequences on women and people of color. So what happened is, historically, we've done the bullets, and the list just got longer and longer. If you looked at a posting from 1920, it's very short, but it uses the exact same language that we use today. Fast forward 20 years, it got longer. Same language, same tactics. It gets longer and longer and longer. We're currently at the longest postings of the last century. The reason is because we have more bias than ever. And unfortunately, that stops people from applying. And that's the consequence that most recruiters and hiring managers never think about. They come into the world, and this is not uncommon. They're like, I want a diverse pipeline. I want new people, right? However, they never realize that, well, here's one data-focused example, is that if you go past 7 bullets, you will see fewer female applicants. I can guarantee it.
And why is that? Because again, maybe we are more inclined to look to meet all 7 or 7 plus. Okay.
If women don't meet 100% of the qualifications, only about 60% will apply. If men do not meet 100% of the qualifications, a much higher percentage still apply. Women hold themselves to the expectation that they must meet 100% of the expectation or they are not qualified. And that's not real. It's not real.
I can tell you, and this is the experience that I had when I applied for the last job where I worked for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I saw the posting on Indeed, and I am one of the 5% that actually got hired. I applied online. I uploaded my CV. I don't even know if it was Word or PDF.
Right.
And when I read the posting, Katrina, I saw myself in it, even though I did not meet bullet by bullet going down. And in fact, I was an untraditional hire.
Right.
Because I'd never worked in the I had worked in the nonprofit world, but I'd never worked in the nonprofit world doing policy. I'd never worked in government. I'd never worked on Capitol Hill. And yet the position was for a vice president of global affairs and policy.
Yeah.
But I think I was a unicorn.
Right. And they saw you. They probably saw your background and realized how transferable your skills are, right? No lie, not even 2 hours ago, I was on a call with a hiring manager, and he went on and on about this one requirement for a mathematics analysis, blah, blah, blah. And I asked, and it was for machine learning and AI. And I said, that's really interesting because you mentioned that you want a little bit of experience, that like 3 to 5 range. However, in the history of the last 3 to 5 years, this field has changed tremendously. Do you have the degree? He goes, no. I was like, you've been pretty successful, right? Yes. That degree requirement left that job posting at that moment, right? Because it was proof. And that's the part that the recruiters aren't getting there. So don't hold yourself back because they could see the unicorn like you. And it could be the moment that changes your whole life because you took that little risk.
Yes. And I will say, Katrina, that I was doing that as someone who was already in my 40s. And I do not believe that someone who is in college right now, who may be graduating in the spring, would necessarily be as inclined.
Yes.
Because they don't have that experience and that self-confidence to say, yeah, why not? I'm just going to go for it. And I've done all these other things and I see that my skills are transferable because most college students are not taught to think that way. They're taught that they're an XYZ major. And so they think in a silo and not necessarily in a cross-cutting way. So what would you say, especially to our young viewers who are in college right now, how you would recommend they go about job searching? What approach should they have?
Totally. So I think the first piece is having those multiple job titles, getting that variation, because that may introduce you to different industries or field that you never considered, and be open to it. I think the second thing is looking where other people with your degree program have ended up. I think it's really fascinating. A lot of recruiters recruit from a certain degree program. They find it very interesting. They know the quality of the output of students from UW Seattle, perhaps, right? They know the quality of your program and they will specifically recruit people from that program. So it's worth working backwards to see where other people have ended up. And if that seems interesting to you, go ahead and contact them, because if they've already made a hire with a background that's really similar to yours, you have an advantage. An obvious advantage, because remember, we don't need them reading between the lines. You just showed a one-to-one match, right?
Yes.
The other thing I would tell you is that recruiters are looking at your LinkedIn profile more than you think, especially at the graduate level. You need to tell a story, and that story needs to include 2 things that I think are very, very important and are lacking from the majority of these profiles. 3 things. I lied. Okay, the first thing that you need are the keywords, right? If you come across the same 5 words in every single posting you apply to, that better be on your LinkedIn. Seriously, that's a no-brainer. Number 2, it needs a little bit of intrigue. What is interesting about you? How did you end up here? What's your unique story? I wrote an overview for a young woman who grew up in Iran. She took a test at 8 years old that changed her entire life and put her on a path for learning. Because if she had not done as well on that test as she did, she would still be uneducated. Okay? That's a story I want to read as a recruiter, right? And the third thing that I would tell you that you need is the thing that might catch their eye, the thing that you might have in common. And that's why you'll want to talk about your degree program. That's why you need to talk about your experiences that you've had that prepare you for any role. And you got to get into those details and really tell people what you want to do, that call to action. I want to be a director of marketing. Be explicit. In my next role, I will have this title and I will do this kind of work. That call to action. Tell them what you want.
I love that. Now we are talking about the about section. Is that right, Katrina? Because the about section is where you have 2,000 characters to really paint that picture, to take us inside who you are. Give us a sense. Are you first gen? Are you a first gen college student? Are you someone who grew up disadvantaged in other ways or with certain cultural affinities and excitement in your life? Paint that picture. The only question that I have is on the third one. When you put the title in there, could that be limiting? Especially because there are some companies who make up their own titles. So how do you square that, Katrina?
So I think it could be limiting in one way, but let's be realistic. You're not taking a job a level below where you're at. It's an emotional choice. We talked about that earlier. So if I see myself as a marketing manager, I will not be an associate of marketing. I won't take the job. I don't care, right? And if you're at that place where you do have some experience, I'd rather you be explicit than let me reach out to you 10 times about a job that you don't want, right? And I think it's okay to say what you want, right? So often we try to be everything to everyone, which is good in one way. If you really need a job, if financially you're struggling, if you have a bill to pay, don't put a job title in there. But if you're looking for the job, if you're looking for a great job, be explicit. I call that a manifestation. And this is a little outside of the job stuff, but I do believe in manifesting your excellence and manifesting your dream. And you have to say it out loud or it doesn't exist. It's not real. And that is a step in our career that we have not taught people how to do. We don't tell people, tell me what you want. Do you know how many times I have to ask people who ask me for a reference? I'm like, oh, what job do you want? I'm like, can you let me know if anything pops up? And I'm like, what are you looking for? Why do I have to ask that question? Right? If you do not answer that question, you wasted your LinkedIn profile. It's not worth your time.
So excellent point. Now we're talking about the headline. And this is the real estate that is right underneath your name. When I say you've got like 160 characters, something in that ballpark. What should they put in there, Katrina, in terms of a title? And do you recommend that they say ISO or looking for, or how should they No,
never.
What should they put in that real estate?
Here's why. Let me just give a little clarification on that. Never, ever, ever say, I'm a job seeker in the headline, because no recruiter has ever Googled, I'm a job seeker, to look for a job seeker. We don't look for job seekers. We look for candidates. And so you need to be a one-to-one match for what I'm looking for. So the way you pick your headline when you're a job seeker is that I want you to take those 5 titles we talked about earlier, the 5 you're searching, and I want you to use this free tool. It's called Google Trends. If you type in Google Trends, you'll find it. You're going to type in each job title, and you're going to look for the one that gets the most search volume. And that is very obvious based on the graph that pops up. Literally, they put them on a score of 0 to 100, assuming all things are equal, and it will tell you exactly what your winner is. Now, the next thing you're going to do is Google Trends gives you a little more context. It will tell you if there's actually regional nuance. Sometimes jobs are called one thing on the East Coast and one thing on the West Coast. It'll tell you that. The other thing that's very interesting is it will tell you if people are searching for your job title in reference to jobs. So it'll give you what it calls related queries. So what you want to see is resume, salary, interview questions with your job title in front of it. What you do not want to see are things that are completely unrelated. Example, a few weeks ago, I wrote a job posting for a utility forester. And they were like, we're not getting any volume on our jobs. Well, yeah, because I Googled utility forester and I found a Volvo. And Volvo is always going to beat your job search. Right? So you want to use the title that is searched the most often, and Google Trends will tell you which one that is.
What did you change the title to for that post?
I believe it is a utility electrical worker, or it's just electrical worker. And then we explain the whole, it's in the woods, by the way.
Okay, got it. Well, that deserves another ding there because I have never heard of Google Trends. That is another Katrina Kibben gem there for you, my friends. Okay, here is another posting for a digital marketing associate. In what they call the job description, Katrina, they say there are 5 responsibilities. What's your feeling about listing out responsibilities and whether you should be using that for keywords? I'll tell you, there's 5 responsibilities, and then what success looks like, which I thought was pretty cool. What success looks like by 6 months and what success looks like by a year, which I was very impressed with. And then the qualities of the ideal candidate and then minimum qualifications and skills. What would you be putting into your word cloud?
Yeah. So I would take everything from the 6 months down. Because the requirements, I would have a guess that they are very, very broad. Collaboration, trust, right? Are they kind of like very fluffy?
The qualifications, no.
No, the requirements, sorry, the very first.
Oh, sorry, requirements. Let me go back. Requirements, client and affiliate communication works to understand clients' marketing goals.
Fluff, right?
Okay.
It's more the like, you're a team player who can work effectively while blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
It's too much. So what I would do is take everything from the 6 month and the 1 year and put that into the word cloud. Then I would describe experiences where I have successfully completed those tasks. So example, in 6 months, you have built a social media community on Facebook that's growing and lively. I'm sure we have something like that. On yours, you'll want to say, grew a Facebook community by 10% year over year, growing from 60,000 to 100,000. I'm making this up, 66,000.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of the qualities of the ideal candidate, is this where you are recommending to our viewers that they take 50%? Basically, that they look at this with a big grain of salt.
100% of the time, you should take those
Okay.
qualifications because they don't know.
Can I just read this shit to you, Katrina? Because it is shit. All right. I'm not identifying the hiring manager, the company here, but has a strong internal motivation to get the job done and done well. I have a very low internal motivation. I want to sit and eat bonbons on the couch. Like, who would go to a job and say, I'm just going to have it in 25%?
Exactly.
All right.
Or my favorite, fast-paced company. And you're like, is that supposed to get me excited?
I know. Or dizzy. So next bullet, only provides superior results and unsurpassed customer service.
Right. And this is why you should be ignoring this.
Okay, emphasizes an incredible attention to detail and is capable of multitasking and coordinating several projects at once. So when you put this, oh, here we go, thrives in a fast-paced environment and enjoys bringing order to chaos.
Yep. Okay, so let's read between the lines of what that really just said. What that means in real talk is we're going to dump a lot on your plate. We're not going to teach you how to do much of anything, but we will expect that you give us the output of the person a level above you, right? So we actually want you to be one level above, but we're going to pay you at one level below, and we expect you to do it quickly. That's what that just said in plain English.
Yes. And I want to note here, this is another case, Katrina, where the qualifications say digital marketing 1 year preferred, marketing 1 year preferred. And then when you scroll down to the minimum qualifications and skills, 1 to 4 years of online marketing, e-commerce, or affiliate marketing experience.
Which is insane because just a quick example. If I work at Google and then I work at some little startup with 4 employees, I can acquire 4 years of experience. Do we have the same experiences? Absolutely not. Not even a little bit. The difference between working at Google and a company with 4 employees, right? Completely different. Numbers don't work. That's why you need to breeze past that. If it's way off, 15 years and you have 1, okay, that's probably not your job. But if it's 3 and you have 1, you need to apply anyway, because this is about looking at the post. We need to qualify people instead of quantifying experiences that are not equal.
Tell me if you think this is legit for this role, which is clearly an entry-level position.
Yeah.
Knowledge of affiliate networks. And then they put in there, share a sale, commission junction, etc., a plus. So it's a plus to have that. Is that a fair, and should someone, if you're saying like, ooh, I really like this, I like the type of vibe I'm getting from this company, and I really want to get a break and my foot in the door, should I, as a job applicant, if I don't have share a sale, should I be like trying to hack my way there, watching YouTube videos, maybe even taking, if there's an Udemy course or something on that?
If it's coming up regularly in a lot of jobs that you're reading, absolutely. I would even suggest, and one of my friends did this and it worked. So she read that and it seemed like that one extra thing that she didn't have. And so she called them up and she said, may I speak to the recruiter? She got an introduction and she just asked, what percentage of the role is this work? And by asking that question, he said, actually, we don't need that. We have 3 candidates in the door right now who don't have that background. Why don't you send me your resume and I'll take a look. Walked right in.
Is this your friend who was the filmmaker?
Yep.
Okay. I love that example. And you shared that when you were on Kamara's show.
Yeah.
And in fact, did she get that job?
Unfortunately, no. But
okay. Oh,
no, I think that's an example of this market. And so be kind to yourself, right? So she walked in there. This was a job that needed 3 to 5 years of experience. They ended up hiring someone with 10 years of experience. So someone else lowered their bar a lot to take this job, and that's okay, right? You do not want to be in the position unless it is an emergency, unless it is a financial situation that's limiting to your life. You do not need to lower the bar like that for yourself. The market is not that limited right now, no matter what the unemployment numbers say.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. If I want to know what is a common set of hard skills, of technical knowledge that is going to be more universal within the industry that I'm applying, I need to cut this minimum qualifications and put it in Google Trends. Do I do it Do I do it like share a sale separate, then commission junction, or how would I do that?
So if you wanted to see what technology is most important, or excuse me, most searched, you could
Yes.
absolutely plug each of those technologies into Google Trends. The comparison that's on their homepage is Kim Kardashian and Taylor Swift. Like they compare who's more popular. I'm not kidding. Every single day, that's the comparison. So like you can compare anything if you want to know which one is getting searched more. The other piece is use job postings broadly as samples. So let's say you really want to work in the sports industry. So go find five is a good data set, around 5 postings of competitors. Find the company you're applying to and find 4 other competitors. Use that as your data set to try to get what all of them have in common, what all of them are looking for. And if you meet those qualifications, you can get those jobs.
Katrina, I just looked at the time. I'm like off in my own little world and I realized it's past 3. I'm so sorry. I kept you over.
We're having fun, right?
Okay, we are having fun, but
Yeah.
let me just give you the opportunity if you have any closing words maybe of inspiration for our viewers who may be feeling super discouraged right now, disheartened. This is a really tough job market, about how they can break through in this competitive space.
Yep. So this is something that I did really early on, and it's not only going to make you feel very good, but it's also a way to build your network very quickly. So when you feel down, I want you to write a list of people that you know you would work with again. People that, whether there was somebody sitting next to you in class, whether it was a professor, whether it was at a job, I want you to start making the list, and the list goes on and on. This list does not stop in its development, but here's the next piece. Whenever you feel down, whenever you hit that wall, I want you to call one of those people, just one, and tell them what's going on. Be honest, let it out. What happens is that over time, people get to know what you're actually looking for. They get to know you even better, and they know who to call. And that is the number one thing that will help you get a job, is if people know if X, they call you. And by making those quick calls, being honest, connecting with people, that's how you get that call. And a little soul filler as well, because you get to talk to an old friend.
Oh, I love that. Well, let me give you mine. And I actually have taken this from someone else who had put it out there, but it was so good. I just have to share it. And that is to text 3 or 4 people who know you really well and ask them if they would text you back what they see as being your biggest strengths.
Nice.
And it is really heartwarming.
Yeah.
Because we're so close to ourselves. A lot of times we take our superpowers for granted, and just getting that affirmation and maybe even seeing things about yourself that you wouldn't have thought of can really help perk you up.
Yeah. And it is, you get into a cave. Every time you get a rejection, every time something goes wrong, I feel like we take this step backwards into the cave. You need your people, and trust that you can rely on your people too. You're not complaining. You're not causing anyone havoc, right? This is about the human connection, and we all need each other, especially right now.
You mentioned the cave. I will just end on this. Joseph Campbell. Does that name mean anything to you? Joseph Campbell, I believe, he's sort of a philosopher.
Okay.
He is no longer with us. But he said, the treasure you seek lies in the cave you fear to enter.
Yes. The way my coach says it is, yes lives in the land of no.
Exactly. So keep at it. Keep the faith. Know you will find something. And when you get a no, because God knows we've all gotten no's, see it as redirection. Absolutely. Not rejection, redirection, and just trust the process, it will happen.
Absolutely. Totally.
Katrina, you are such a gem. I so greatly appreciate you making time for coffee today with me and the Time for Coffee community. Awesome. And I just want to say cheers to all of our viewers. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
Take care, everybody. Thanks, Katrina.